All right, so let's dive into our questions this week. We're going to start with Alan. He sent this in via email to us on the show. As a beneficiary of an irrevocable trust, once my parents pass away, it is my understanding that I am required to take mandatory distributions over a 10-year period. What are my options to lessen my tax burden once my payments start? I am currently enrolled in my work 401k and regularly contribute the maximum amount to my Roth IRA. Well, way to go on the Roth, the retirement contributions, Alan. So let's talk about the irrevocable trust. So people do use both revocable and irrevocable trust in estate planning. The irrevocable part, as the name implies, John, is it's locked in. When you set this thing up, the die is cast.
Yeah, and I think to the question that Alan is asking, the pivot point is whether or not the trust assets are qualified assets or non-qualified assets. If they are qualified assets, then you could very well fall under that 10-year rule. Mm-hmm. If they are non-qualified assets, I can't find any rule that says that you have to take those assets out over a 10-year period unless the irrevocable trust mandates that you do that.
Yeah.
So there could be some language there. If they are qualified assets, you're kind of up against a wall. There's not a lot that you can do about the taxation of that. You have to take it out. You have to take required minimum distributions out over 9 of those 10 years, and then you have to take the rest of it out that you haven't taken out already in that 10th year. So you could actually space that out in 10 equal payments and actually do okay with that. But there is really not anything that you can do other than to disclaim those assets and let it go to another beneficiary. But you probably don't want to do that.
Right.
Even if you're going to pay tax on it, you're still getting more money in your hand than you have right now.
Yeah. So if let's kind of bear down a little bit more on the qualified versus non-qualified. So qualified means they're in a retirement account, most likely 401k IRA, right? And while your parents are living, Alan, it's not going to be in the trust name, right? So the only way it ends up in the trust is if your parents have those IRA dollars on track to be sent to the trust post-death. So that could change. You could change a beneficiary there, but it doesn't really alleviate the 10-year rule. Well, I say really, it doesn't at all alleviate the 10-year rule. You're still going to have to take that out, whether it's in the trust or whether you've got it in your personal, or you're the personal beneficiary of that.
That's correct.
And then if it's non-qualified, the benefit there is if those assets are not sold while your parent, or those investments, I should say, are not sold while your parents are living. So let's say they're in some stocks and some mutual funds. Their cost basis is whatever they bought the investments for, the price that they bought the investments for. If they sell them while they're alive, then the capital gain is the difference, wherever the asset price is now or the investment price is now compared to when it was, or what it was when they bought it. If they don't sell it, and they pass away and it's in this trust, the taxable amount on that is going to be stepped up, or is going to be lessened because the cost basis is going to step up.
Yeah, you basically get whatever at the date of death of the final person, whatever that cost basis is or whatever the price is of that investment is on that particular date, you get a step up in that basis at that particular point in time. And then if the assets remain in the trust going forward, then only the interest or the gains on that are taxable to the beneficiary. Yeah. Now, Alan also talked a little bit about his 401k plan. He said that he's enrolled in his 401k plan. The question that I would have, Alan, is are you maxing out your contributions in the 401k? If you are, if you're not, then you should be increasing those contributions, and that has a bit of an offset. If you have qualified assets in the trust that are going to come to you, you could offset that income tax effect of those qualified assets coming to you as income. You could reduce your work income through the contribution to the 401k plan. So that's an idea that I would say that you would have there. Now, just because you have to take the money out of the trust Let's talk about that for just a second. It really doesn't mean that you can't put it back into something for your retirement.
Right.
There's lots of different options there, Scott.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point here for Alan, especially if this is a really well, let's assume for just a moment, because again, the distinction here for us is not that just because it's in a irrevocable trust that it has to come out in 10 years. It has to be qualified assets. Then the 10-year rule applies unless there's language in the irrevocable trust that says you have to take it out in 10 years. So let's assume that one of those is true, and you're going to have to take all the distributions out over a 10-year period. That doesn't mean you have to spend it. It does mean you have to pay the taxes on it. But as far as long-term planning here, I think that really needs to be what Alan needs to consider. Are you married? He says he's sending the maximum amount into his Roth IRA, but assuming his income doesn't exceed the limits to do this because of those distributions. If you're married, you could max out a Roth IRA for your spouse. And your spouse does not have to actually have earned income. If you file a joint tax return, your income would suffice. So you can actually get more money into a Roth IRA for your retirement, and you can also put it into non-qualified investments in your name once it's been removed from the trust and the taxes have been paid.
So if you have followed this ball of yarn all around all of what we're talking about, then maybe you ought to, maybe be a financial advisor or something. But I do think it is very important to point out that it's complex things like this, it's complex planning like this that really does make an emphasis on having a relationship with an advisor that is working in your best interest, that is coming alongside you and helping to sort out complex problems like this. And you may say, well, I don't have a whole lot of complexity in my financial situation. Even more so for you to have that third-party view of the situation and help you in your long-term planning. Don't be one of those Gen Zers that is scared out of long-term planning because of what they hear about the economy. A financial advisor can help sort that out, or can help sort out complex questions like this that have tax implications, investment implications, income implications, all of that. That's the value that I think you could have with a financial advisor to address questions like Alan's.
Yeah, I would encourage you, Alan, to plan to invest, plan for some financial goals, and not worry so much about just the taxes. That's an important part for sure, but getting a financial plan together for those assets after your parents are gone is certainly a good idea. And we're going to say thanks to Alan for sending in that question by naming it the question of the week.